In this video, I'm looking at the Tripowin X HBB Olina. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Reviews. So we've got the Tripowin X HBB Olina, and that name is just a bit ridiculous. So from this point on, I'm going to call it the Tripowin Olina. Yeah. And the price of this is $99. It is a single dynamic driver IEM. It's probably, I think from memory, it's a 10mm dynamic driver. It's a CNT or carbon nanotube driver. That is the box. Inside the box, you get the IEMs. You get this pretty lovely case. In fact, this case was so popular that it's actually now available as a standalone product. So there you go. So you get a pretty nice selection of ear tips, and you get some replacement filters in case you're a dirty I don't want to in case you need to replace them, in case the stock ones get dirty, you can replace the filters. And there's some nonsense going on about filter mods and all that bollocks, but I don't mod IEMs. I review them as they come in the box. So let's have a look at the IEMs now, and here they are. Before we get to the actual IEM, let's have a quick look at this cable. And yeah, it's a bit ordinary. Although, you know, it does match the color of the IEMs nicely. It handles reasonably well. It doesn't have microphonics, but it tangles like a motherfucker. I mean, swear, expect to spend a good deal of time untangling this cable unless you're really pedantic or really cautious about it. Use the chin slider when you roll it up. Otherwise, look, every time, of course it didn't happen that time, but man, I have spent so much time untangling that cable. So if I were to use these as a daily driver, I would definitely replace the cable with something a little bit better. But anyway, in terms of build, it's nice. You know, we've got this nice sort of grey and black. I've seen some blue ones, but you've got this sort of marble-like pattern on the face plates. Aluminium shells, of course. They are fairly comfortable. The passive noise isolation is only average. It's not that great, and the fit is not entirely secure, so you will have to ensure you got the right ear tips in place. But apart from that, they are a comfortable IEM. But you know, enough with all that. Let's talk about how these sound. Let's get into it. So the Tripowin Olina has a fairly balanced presentation with a moderate bass boost. It produces an airy sound with a spacious soundstage and an ethereal lightness. Fairly linear in nature, the Olina is an IEM with a mostly safe tuning, although the upper mid-range is a tad thin, and it doesn't really get shouty, but if you pump the volume up, you might regret it, depending on the track that you're listening to. Now, the Olina will suit anyone looking for a very clean sound with strong technical performance, but not so much for those looking for a rich or a warm tonality. Let's throw up the graph here. Now, bass. The bass has a moderate boost that should satisfy most listeners, but might leave bass heads wanting more. It is a nimble bass with clean leading edges and a fast decay. The transition from the sub bass to the mid bass is fairly linear, resulting in a good balance of authority and slam. However, the bass is light on texture and it lacks grit. It's a well-controlled bass with a somewhat dry upper range, and that helps create a spacious and open sound. The low end extension is satisfying, it's pretty good, and it delivers plenty of impact plus ample rumble on demand. The mid-range has a neutral bright tuning, making it crisp and somewhat lean. It does have kind of a low lean note size. Female vocals and specific instruments such as the upper registers of pianos are crisp and upfront, but in most cases they don't cause any agitation. Fast transients and the upper mid-range lift aid in the clarity and articulation. The lower mids are a tad dry and they could benefit, in my opinion, from a little bit more body and fullness. This also applies to male vocals, which in some cases lack power and depth. However, the mid-range resolution and transparency are above average for something in its price range. And the Olina's treble is fairly forward in amplitude, but it doesn't come across as being sharp. Treble sensitive listeners may find the sound fatiguing, for longer listening sessions, but it shouldn't be a concern for the majority of people. It's a very airy treble with good top end extension and a natural decay. The slightly rounded treble notes aren't the most resolving or precise, but they are smooth and they don't create any sibilance. And when we get to the soundstage and technicalities, that is one area where the Olina really shines. Its technical performance is among the best you'll find in this price range, around $100. The soundstage is quite large, quite expansive, and very airy, with good width and ample depth. Olina's imaging and layering are impressive, as is its detail retrieval. A lot of this comes down to the excellent treble extension and the fast transient speed of that CNT driver or that CNT diaphragm, and that results in good spacing and instrument separation. So let's do a quick comparison with one of the sub or near $100 champions, and that is the Moondrop Aria. Now, the Moondrop Aria is another single dynamic driver IEM. Both of them have a very similar bass response, but the Aria's bass is more pronounced and more forward because its upper mid-range is more laid back compared to the Olina. So the Olina brings the upper mid-range more forward, which sort of pulls the bass back a little bit. The Aria, on the other hand, is not so intense in the upper mid-range, which sort of allows the bass to come forward a little bit more. The Olina definitely has an edge in clarity and detail that comes from the extra lift in the presence region and the extra treble. As a result, the Olina has a thinner note size and less body. The Olina is more detailed, but for my preferences, I believe the Aria has a more natural tone. The Aria's treble is also sweeter and it's a bit more laid back compared to the Olina's drier treble presentation. The Olina has a larger area soundstage with better treble extension, but the Aria has more note density compared to the Olina. And if I was to choose a daily driver, I would probably go for the Aria, but that's really just my personal preference. I know everybody out there is madly obsessed with technicalities right now, so a lot of you are going to love the Olina. So to sum up, look, the Olina, it is a very good IEM. I have to say it's probably in the top 3 around that $100 mark. There are some definite contenders in that area. It might not perfectly suit my personal preference all that much. I'm getting a bit bored with all this technicality obsession. I like something that's a bit more emotive and engaging. I like a bit more warmth, especially in the sort of the upper bass region and the lower mid-range. So this one might not be my first pick, but it is still, I have to admit, is a very good IEM. And if you're looking for a large soundstage, there's very few IEMs that can compete with this one in this price range. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it the old thumbs up, Parfam audiophile style. And look, if you're new here and you want to see more reviews like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and maybe even that little bell icon. And until next time, see you later.